Welcome to Tough Talk. Join the conversation with Kiwi men as they tell their stories and talk about what they do for me time, what it takes to be tough on the inside, and how to be a good mate.
I really like the end got really cool. It's like being yourself, basically like how Talofa Henry,
Talofa Sam.
thanks for coming out here and giving me some time. It was really cool checking in and seeing your workplace, the work you do with the young people.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe we could start off by hearing about your story, you know, things that influenced you growing up and a little bit about where you came from.
Okay, sure. I'm New Zealand born Samoan. Well, my parents first generation New Zealanders. I was born in Wellington, born and bred Porirua, and now married with 2 children and work at Partners Porirua. I've been in the education sector for quite a few years now, for the last 20 years or so, and attend a local Pacific Island church or Methodist church, which is full immersion Samoan. It's all in the Samoan language, which is it's definitely helped in terms of having a connection to my identity and roots, but especially language. So like I'm fluent in both English and Samoan, and I come from a family of 8, 4 brothers, 4 sisters, and currently, so my father's passed away, and our mother lives with us. So my wife and I and our kids.
I'm interested to hear a little bit about about your journey from Samoa. So maybe let's start there.
Well, essentially, it's not my journey. It's my parents from Samoa.
Of course.
And they, like a lot of other families in the 60s, 70s came to New Zealand because of opportunities, especially educational opportunities for their children. We maybe travel back there. We've got some family that still live there, but our main connection back to our culture anyway is through church. So that's how, in terms of every week and growing up with that church family, if you like. Well, that's most definitely been the biggest influence in terms of those connections. And we still have extended family who live all around New Zealand.
I've heard some people that come from the Pacific Islands, and particularly in the second generation, can sometimes find it hard with identity.
Yeah.
Being like, I'm not quite a Kiwi, I'm not quite Samoan.
Yeah.
Has that been an experience you've ever struggled with?
Absolutely, and actually that's had a lot to do with how we have decided to raise our family as such, because there are some instances that I know of, and I won't talk about them specifically, but where some families who came from the Pacific actually disengaged themselves from their culture to a certain extent, and I find that some of my people that I'm acquainted with, or people that I know of in my generation, still feel they feel like something's missing.
Do you think things like the church and community helps with that?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been great. Only because it's set up it's set up almost like a village, really, where all the adults become your uncles and aunties, and you might not be biologically related to them, but you spend so much time with them that over the course of 40 years or whatever it is, you see them as your family.
That seems important, actually, because it doesn't have to be a church, but I think it's that village type structure that we're really missing today, especially in cities and bigger places.
Yep.
That seems something that maybe we can all think about.
Yeah, well, I think so. I think, and again, I can only talk from my point of view that it's been helpful for me. So whether or not it's something for everyone, I'm not sure. I just saw the other day, Michael Jones was received the New Zealand Order of Merit. So and he spoke a lot about the village actually brings up a village upbringing where it's not just my parents, not just the parents who influenced my childhood. It was the uncles and aunties, and it was people at church and so on. So it's definitely worked for me. That's probably what I could say. Yeah.
I'm also thinking about another thing you said in your story is your father's passed away. And I know when we were talking earlier, you mentioned he was quite an influential figure on yourself. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, sure. It was, and he's probably been the most influential in terms of, I want to say it's not manliness, but understanding what it means to be a real man. He was a quiet man. He wasn't very well educated, but his expectation for his family was to come here, have his kids be educated, and look for just offer more opportunities, not necessarily better, just more more choice for his kids. So he was very strict, and discipline was high. But in saying that, eventually I knew that it was just because he loved us that he sort of that was just the way the best way he knew how to bring up his kids and instill the values that he knew were important. And of course those values are the same values that I live by now. Just trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good dad, trying to be be connected back to the village or the church, and also being contributing to the community around us.
So what, I didn't know your father, what were some of those values or way he behaved as a role model that you talked about, the way he related to your mother, and some of the tools he had? Can you expand on those a little bit?
Yeah, probably the typical things like hardworking, integrity was high for him. Just he didn't, like I said, he didn't talk a lot, but he when he did talk, he meant what he said. And his relationship with my mum, he understood the value of a partnership as opposed to the traditional, back in, 50, 60 years ago, how it was, I'm the head of the house and my wife is my right hand person. Our household wasn't like that. It was there was a lot of negotiating. So that's what I saw when I was growing up. There was a lot of compromise. And my mum she's strong-headed anyway, but he still allowed for that conversation to happen, and I think that was really healthy for us to see when we were growing up, because easy to use it as a blueprint for, say, in my marriage, and also just for my older brothers as well, that and their relationships.
I guess where I want to take it to is also understanding, how did you take those lessons and take what he role modelled and turn it into yourself and what you do today? Like, I know you work with young people, so you're a role model. How do you be a man?
Probably one of the most important things I learnt from him, and it was actually a thing that he wasn't good at, that I learnt, is that he was really quiet. So he didn't talk a lot, but I found that just by default or by accident, talking really helped me sort of unload, and finding, of course you need to talk to the right people, and then, what's the right people?
Yes.
The right people tend to be the people who stand the test of time, like who sort of have been around your life, for that length or that season, that, I can actually trust them. But I think what's important is that you're comfortable with the person that you choose to share with or talk with. And some people say, you should keep it within your family, or it should be this person. Well, no one knows except for you, really, who you're comfortable with, or who actually gets what you're trying to say. They don't have to agree with it. They just have to get what you're saying, right? Understand that.
What kind of other things do you do? Perhaps when you work with young people.
Prioritising. I've always found that I always use that word when I'm speaking with my kids, because I've never met a young person that doesn't want to succeed. To be honest, it's not that they don't want to do it. They just, a lot of them aren't quite sure how to get there, or maybe they don't have the confidence or whatever. And I always go back to prioritising. If you just, you can prioritise whatever resource you have. For a lot of young people, it's time. They've got time on their hands, and it's not necessarily money, or they've got family. They've got sort of networks, or prioritise those things and use them effectively. Having the skill of being able to, or the discipline to allocate the right resource or time to the highest of the priorities, it's a skill in itself, and it takes a lot of the work. So, but I find that when you do prioritise properly, especially for young people, they things fall into place eventually now.
How do you see the modern New Zealand man? Like, when do you feel you're the most strong in your life?
My first response to that would be that just being as true as you can, being as true as you can to yourself. Now, because we're all unique, like being true to myself is going to be different to the next guy, and not being too or overly concerned about what people's perceptions are of me, until you actually look at yourself and think, well, who am I? What's the type of person I want to be, or what do I think my purpose is, and how do I want to make my way towards that purpose?
So it's like work out who you are, what you like and don't like.
Yeah.
Make sure you're supported in that process, because it can be hard finding your purpose, or
yeah.
But then talking to people, but then be true to it.
Yeah, just be true to it. And I think a lot of guys don't talk about it, but I reckon deep down, it's sort of think, oh, well, I have to be this person, I have to be that person. And there's nothing wrong with role models and wanting to be like people, but I've just found the older I get, the more comfortable or the more content I am with who I am, with who God made me, because it's what I believe, and you just find that you can deal with things a lot better, and things aren't as things are put into perspective a lot more.
Perfect. I think we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for giving me your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sharing your wisdom is awesome.
No, cool, man. Awesome. So we can do the... Awesome.
Cheers, Henry.
Please, check my eyes.
Kia ora. If you like what you see, follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube or go to our website to sign up for email updates from me. Keep liking and sharing our videos to grow the movement. Peace.
As I wipe the slate clean, share